Hello viewers, welcome to today's session, and after a long time we will start a new session with a technical topic today. And this topic basically covers metrics report in SSRS reporting service, SQL Server reporting service, which is available in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. And it was also previously available in its previous versions, that is Dynamics AX 2012. So the report is in front of you, and in this report we will basically showcase the quantities and values for our retail sales channels, and it will cover also the items. Against each item, you can find for each of the channel or stores how much quantity has been sold to in a specific month. Okay, and there we can provide a date range from and to date, and then the sheet will contain different months during that date. So it will contain at the top, you can see these are the column groups, and we have the row groups here. So the metrics report is when you can have dynamic columns or dynamic rows. So previously in my previous videos we have covered the table based design, but here we will cover the metrics based design, and this is also quite possible to use using Visual Studio and our SQL Server reporting service. Normally in standard reports you will seldom find any of such example which is basically a metrics report, but rather Microsoft now is recommending to use Power BI, that is embedded Power BI within Dynamics 365, or you can externally use Power BI through BYOD. BYOD is just a data warehousing concept of D365. When you cannot directly access the data externally, that is, if you want to develop a report, that's okay, you can use the OLTP or the transactional database, but when you want to access it outside, so you can replicate the entities through DMF data management framework, and that entities will be then synchronizing to a BYOD database on Azure or any of your cloud. So on that, then you can use that as a data source inside the Power BI, and then you can also use metrics based visuals within Power BI, and that is a totally different concept, but normally in many reporting tools metrics based reports are available. So the main intention in metrics based report is when you want to basically show the figures of different categories. So the categories of for example the stores, so this is a totally different, and then you have category of items. So these are two different kind of categories which you want to compare. So for each store like Anapol, how much the sale has been done for this specific item with 0005 code, so 27 number, and then there is a value, but there is no unit here, which we'll also include. The unit of measure is very important, so it can be each, I think. So whatever the unit is, so that will be also displayed, because sometime it is kg, sometime pieces, so it is very important to show also the units. So when you enter the date range, so according to that date range, month wise it will also group the data, because if the time constraint is not there, which time period is applicable for this data, so otherwise how you will make a decision. So this report will be definitely useful for sales team, or it can be useful for operations, or it can be useful for the supply chain or manufacturing. So if you are creating or producing the items, so definitely how much sales is being done, so on the basis of that you need to procure the item or manufacture the item. So this report is very important for any of the retail operating industry, so that you can have the right figures at the right time. And on the right hand side you can see for each of the item, total quantity and total value is being shown for all the channels. And similarly, when you go at the bottom, so the bottom will contain the subtotals for each of the month. And then if you go in the last sheet, which will be like this one, so you will have a overall total, grand total for all of the months. So that is also shown here. So how to do this? So basically, since it is a complex report, so we will be using a data provider based concept. So we will just explain it a minute. Okay, first of all, what we need to do is we will create a new project, as we have been doing in our previous training videos for SSRS. And here we need to find our finance and operation project template. Okay, double click it and then just name it PKR Retail Sales Report as a project name. Okay, just create it. Okay, so the project is created on the right hand side, and you can see here that on the right hand side the default model selected is fleet management, but since we are having our own model, so first thing is before creating any of other object, you need to basically appropriately select your model. So in our case it is PKR model, but once you have created any other item, it is not possible to change the model of those objects until you delete those objects. So all the efforts will be in vain. So now once we have created the project, so for a DP based and query based report, the main the difference is query based report is for simpler cases and DP based data provider based report is for complex cases when a complex computation need to be done. So in this case, since this is a complex report, and how you decide that, because if the data is not readily available on the tables, so that will basically need a complex report or data provider based report. So in this case, since we will require many things which will not be possible easily on the query base, so we will use data provider base. So in data provider base, we will basically the main components are temporary table. Then we have the classes. There are different kinds of classes. The main 4 classes are like UI builder class for user interface assistance, and then we have contract class, and then we have data provider base class that will provide basically the business logic, and then we also have sometime controller class. So controller class will basically, the main purpose is to if you have multiple designs, so based upon the parameters you can select the exact design or what is required. So the UI builder and contract is definitely to pass the parameters from the end user to the system so that the data can be filtered within the DP class. And similarly, UI builder can be typically uses are like overriding local lookup, built-in lookup method, or adding additional logic into your contract class. So now first thing will be the temporary table to create, which will hold our data. Once the DP class will calculate the data, so we need a container to hold the data temporarily until the data is being displayed to the end user. So first of all, right click over the project and go to the new item, and then within the new item open on the left hand side the different categories and go to the data model. In the data model, select the table and give the table a logical name. Normally the prefix of the project, like we have given PKR retail sales, so this will be followed till now, PKR underscore retail sales for all our object, but the later part will specifically mention what it is. So TMP is used normally for temporary table. Okay, so now the table is being displayed on our workspace. I will close this so that a big area is available. I will also auto hide this one, and Now first thing is to give a label to this temporary table. So logical name could be retail sales data. Okay, and then if you notice here, the new builds also contain this by default. A new field is row version number. So this is for the regular tables. So what we need here is basically to disable this option. So how to achieve that? Just go ahead here. You will see in the property allow row version change tracking. You can disable this. Okay, then you have the option of table type, which is regular now. Regular in memory temp DB I have already explained, but regular will persist the data in memory is for RAM when you have fixed number of records, mostly 100 to 500 or something like this, small number, but it is always fixed so that it should not extend, it should not increase more than that, otherwise because it will be kept in RAM, so it has its own consequences. So normally temp DB will be selected in all our DP provider based reports. So once we have defined the regular, the data type, table type, then we can create the fields. So the first field is date type, which will hold the transaction date. Okay, first we will create and name the fields. So then we will have store ID. Store ID is definitely a channel ID. Then store name, to have a full name of stores. That will also be string type. Store name. Then item ID and item name, both will be string type. Don't worry, the extended data types we will be assigning in properties in the end. First we just quickly name them. Okay, then unit of measure also needed, like kgs or pieces or each, whatever unit is. Then we also need to have the quantity. Quantity will be definitely real. Real is having a decimal portion as well. Okay, then we can have a value, that the sale value. Okay, so mostly these will be the different options. Okay, now the second stage, what we'll do, we'll select each of the field and we'll assign extended data type here. So the purpose is to basically extend that field with a EDT or extended data type or user defined data type. So this is a user defined data type, and it is also extending from originally it is extending from a built-in data type, that is a date type. So, and also it will inherit the label of the extended data type. Okay, then we have the store ID. For that we have retail store ID EDT. You can also click the lookup and double check whether the EDT is existing or not. Then we have retail store name. Okay, that is also exist. And then we have the item ID. Okay, item ID is also present. Then we can go to the item name. Item name. Okay, that is also present, available. And then we have unit. Unit will not be like this, it will be invent unit ID. Okay, then we have the quantity field. Okay, then we have value. Value will be extended from amount cur, normally used to hold the currency values. So this is it. Then we have the option to synchronize the database so that our temporary table is created on the database side. So this is the command here shown on the lookup. Once you right click the project, synchronize the project with the database, or you have another option in the properties, synchronize database on the build. So once you make it true, you can build this project, and it will synchronize the table to the database. So just keep it off so that once it is created, no need to every time build and synchronize. So only first time we will keep this synchronized, or you can use right click and synchronize database command. Okay, then later after this temporary table, we have to create the classes, and to start with, we will start with the contract class first. So I will just right click, and here I will turn it off, the synchronized database option. I have turned it off, and then I will just close the temporary table, and then I will just add the class here, and the class name will be PKR retail sales contract. Okay, and the contract class is used basically to pass the parameters or the filter criteria which is given by the end user, so that based on this the data should be shown on the report. So here what we'll do is, first of all, the access modifier is used as public, protected, and private. We have three modifiers. Public means the class can be accessible from any other class externally, but protected means only accessible from its child class, and private means it is not accessible. Private methods exist within the class, so other methods can access those private methods. So first of all, I will create three classes. Okay, right click and create another class, and this will be PKR retail sales UI builder. Okay, this will be assisting the contract class, and we will implement lookup here to override our own lookup, and then we also need to implement our DP class, and the prefix will be the same like retail sales DP. Okay, so there will be a decorator in each of the classes which will basically add a additional meaning to the class, and that is through square brackets. Okay, like this. So this contract class will have an attribute like data contract attribute. Okay, then we have sys operation contract processing attribute, and here we basically are telling the contract class that you have a UI builder class which will assist you. So here we will implement this one. So this is basically the linking. Okay, inside the contract class we will need at least three filter criteria for a date range and the store selection. So first of all, we will declare the global variable for the dates. Two dates are needed, so two variables for the same data type of trans date is declared here. Then we need to declare a list of stores. Okay, list is basically the values of a specific data types. So then we have the param methods. Param methods are just like getter and setter in order to set a specific value or in order to get a specific value. So these three variables, we will need to set the values or we will need to get the values from these three variables, which are from date and to date and stores. Okay, so now we will declare our param method. First is for from date. Okay, so the naming convention of the method name is param from date, and then the parameter to be passed will be from date, and it need to be optional, so we also assign the from date when we need to act this method. We need this method to act just like a getter, so we need to assign the same global variable here, so it will make it optional. So you can just call the method and this method will return the values whatever is in from date variable. So then we can assign the parameter of from date which is passed. Okay, then it will return from date global variable. We need to also put here the decorator to tell this method that you are a member method of a contract class. So for that, data member attribute is available. Okay, then we have a label decorator available, sys operation label attribute. Okay, then we have literal str that will show a label, and also we need to show a help text. Okay, so the sequence, this is the fourth attribute. Fourth attribute is used to sequence the when the dialog box for the filter criteria will be shown. So this field will be shown at the first number as this will set the sequence as number 1, and this is used for the label attribute, and this one for help text as a tooltip, you can say. Okay, so this is for from date param method, and then we can copy it and then change as per our needs. The other need is to have the to date variable settings, so we will replace the data type will be the same. Okay, we will replace everywhere. This is now for to date, and then in the label also and help text we will place 2, and sequence it will be 2. So on second number it will be shown. Then we have a stores param method. So for stores we will copy stores, and here we will assign the list variable. Okay, and but the data type here is list. So list is passed and list is returned, and also in the labels here we need to put stores as label, and then we have the help text here as stores, and then we have the sequence which will be on third number. So this is it, but we have an additional decorator here which will tell the list basically that the members or the items contained in the list are of which type. So here we will, since store the stores the IDs on, and those are of string types. So here we will choose string as type for that. So this AI collection type attribute is used to have the data type of the members of list, or the values of the list will be in string type, and those will be the store values. So I think this is it. The contract is done, and we will close the contract, and also we will double check whether synchronize is off, and it is off, and then we will build it so that if there are any problems at this stage we can fix those problems. And it is good practice whenever you complete any object or a method, it's better to basically check whether everything is working fine or no. So here you can see from date it is saying it is not declared, so because we have not replaced it, so now we can easily place this and the error will be gone. So the next part is to go for the UI builder class. Open it, and first thing will be to change the access modifier. In our case, it will be public access modifier. Okay, so this is what we have placed here, and then we have a parent class for this UI builder, which will be needed to extend the attributes or behavior. So SRS report data contract UI builder is the parent class, which will be basically extended in this child method. Okay, the first thing, then we will declare the object of contract class. So simply name it as contract, and then we will need to have dialog field objects for each of our field, like from date, to date, and stores. Okay, so there will be 3 fields, and then we will need a container which will hold the stores value to basically build a multi-select lookup. So normally the built-in lookup will will give you the option to select on only a single value, but here, because there are multiple stores or channels, so you can give an option to the end user. Okay, you can select 2 or 3 selection of stores, so that at a particular time you can have the view of data for those specific stores. So once you have extended this class with this one, the data contract UI builder, you can override the parent method in this child implementation. So first one will be the build method. I will remove the documentation, which is used to build the dialog basically. Okay, in the build method, the super method we do not use, because super method will call the parents method implementation, which is not required here. So we will instantiate our contract object, which we have declared in as a global variable, contract object, this dot data contract object. So this is referencing to the current instance, and then we will cast it to our own contract class, retail sales contract. Okay, and then we can link our contract methods, which we have written as param methods, to the dialog fields. So for that, from date equals to this dot add dialog field. Okay, then we have method str, method string for our contract class. Okay, and then we need to put the name here of our param method, and then the instance of the contract class. So this is basically the pattern. So I will just copy this and paste it 2 times. Okay, so here we will have the to date. Okay, in the to date we will also put it here, param to date. Okay, so the second is also done, and then we have here stores, param name also the param stores. So this is our build method. Save it, and then we will basically need to write a lookup method, and that lookup method will be basically a private kind of method, a private access modifier for the lookup method. So we will go ahead and write our lookup method, that will be called lookup stores from string control underscore control, and okay, this private means it will only be accessible within this class. So first of all, a query object will be needed here. So we will declare a query object. Okay, query object we need to instantiate also at the same time. This is used for multi-select lookup. Then we have query build data source. This is nothing, just in X++, like if you have worked on form level. So we have a data source. So one table instance is called a data source, so that can be connected with another table's instance. So in this way those are joined together, and that makes the basically data set or data source of a form design. So similarly, like we have in report, we have data sets, so that is basically the source of data. Okay, now we will need to basically instantiate QBDS, that is query build data source, and that will need to be instantiated by adding a data source to the query object. Okay, and that is add data source method, and that need to pass a table ID. So in our case, we have a view called retail store view. So why we need this view? Because this view contains the store ID as well as the store names. So normally views are used similar like tables. When in the same table you don't find the two fields, so some views are available, or you can create your own view. So then we have add selection field. So this will basically tell the lookup that you need to show these fields when end user clicks the lookup. Okay, retail store view, same view, and there is a field called stored num. So this I will show you on the left hand side of Application Explorer. Okay. So here in the view in data model, in a main AOT and then data model, and inside the view you can go and search for retail store view. Okay, just type in and it will go directly. In retail store view, you can go to the fields node, and here you can find store num and the name of the store. So the channel number and name are available in the same view, and this view is treated as a table. Normally view does not carry the field values, it is the table behind it. Basically views can be considered as query, but for the ease we are using views. Field num. Okay, then the other field which we need here is name. Okay, then now it is we have basically fulfilled the prerequisite to call the lookup multi-select lookup, and for that we will use a class called syslookup multi-select grid. And there is a static method, and that is called by scope resolution operator, like double colon, and then we need to pass the query object which we have instantiated. Okay, and then we need to pass the control which is passed within this method, that is underscore control. So where we need to basically build the multi-select lookup. Okay, so the string control, again the string control, same this one, and then we have the container which will basically hold the selected stores value. So stores container is passed. So that's it. The lookup method is implemented here, and we have defined which fields need to show and on which table or view it need to be built up. So that's it. And then we have one last thing in the UI builder, that is because now we have defined the method, but how to link this method? So we have not in the build, basically it will build the field itself. So how to make the lookup? So for that we need a post run method to override the existing lookup with our written lookup. So for that we will go and insert override method, and this will give us the listing of the parent methods which we can override. So we have post run method. So post run also the super call we will remove, so that we don't need the parent method's behavior here. So what we need to do, first statement will be we will be basically connecting the stores param method with the stores. Basically that we have already connected here in the build method, but here we will be retrieving the values here in the post run. So we will do here the bind info get dialog field. Okay, then we have the contract instance method str. Then we have the retail sales contract class, and the method is param stores. So what is basically stores here? Stores is simply a dialog field, and this is basically in order to connect our lookup to this field. Okay, then the next is if there are stores values, means it is not null, then go ahead and make a lookup button, and the form lookup button should always show instead of auto. Auto is when there are values, only then it will show. So we will show it always, and then we need to basically now override because now the control has been assigned here, and we have the reference to the control. So now we can override that controls lookup method by using register override method, okay, of the control. And here we have method str. Okay, so this is the existing built-in method for the existing lookup, and that we need to replace with our lookup. So we will give the reference to our method by giving the class name in method str UI builder class, and then we have the lookup stores method, and then we will pass the object where we need this overridden behavior. So this will be the keyword. So in this way we have used the post run method. Basically in first statement we are just getting the reference to the control, and then we are checking whether this control is now available, and then we will show the lookup button here, and then we will override the existing lookup method with our written lookup method. So this is our written lookup method here. This statement contains our lookup, and then this statement is the existing one. So and then we need to pass the reference of this object. Okay, so this is our UI builder class. We will just close, and we will build the project so that if there are any errors, so that we can resolve those errors. The last stage, if the build is successful, will be to implement our DP class here. Okay, so here also the access modifier is used as public, and then this DP class should extend SRS report data provider base class as parent. Okay, then we have a decorator for our data provider class that basically connects the contract class with our data provider. For that we will SRS report parameter attribute. Okay, so in this we need to basically pass the class string of our contract class. Okay, this is our contract class. So in this way we have connected our contract class with the data provider class. Okay, next will be the global variables. What we have already created, we will also create here. So first the variable will be our table buffer. So we will declare tmp table buffer, and then we need to have the list of object for our stores, and then we have our contract class, because the values in the contract class will be used now, and we then have trans date. These are also available in our contract, so we will be retrieving those values and using in our DP class. Okay, so the first method, which is very important, and first save it and then right click so that we can see the parent class methods, and here we can see the process report method. So process report method is the method where we need to calculate our business logic, but in order to keep it clean, we will initialize the data only here in the process report. So we will use contract, we will basically instantiate our contract here by assigning param data contract, and then we will be casting it with our own contract class. Okay, then we have from date variable, which will take the data from. So always remember, variables need to be camel case. Camel case means first letter is small and then each word is capitalized, first letter of each word. Okay, from date, and then we have to date. Okay, then we have stores list, params store, so all the selected stores. Okay, so far so good. Now what we need to do is basically we will write a method where actually we will be calculating our business logic. Okay, so this is the method. So void means no return type, private means it is only accessible within this class, and then this method we will be calling from process report. Okay, so process report will call this method. Okay, apart from this, so I will write a comment here to do we will write our business logic here. Then a very important method which will basically retrieve our temporary table when we will be using it in our SQL Server report is the temporary table get method. So our table name is retail sales temp. This will be the return type, and the method name will be like pkr underscore retail sales temp, no parameter passing. And so here you can see the naming of method is just like this, yani get is prefix and the name of the table. So always keep the best practices in implementation. Then we have select tmp table and return. So whatever records are there in temporary table will be selected, and then the buffer table buffer will be returned. But here also we need a decorator, which is srs report dataset attribute. Okay, and we have here table str, and basically we need to tell that the table name is. Okay, so this will basically tell that this method is not a normal method but dataset returning method, or getting from this method the dataset. Okay, so there is some error here because form, it is basically variable form from date instead of from data. So that was the error. Okay, so now what we need to do is we will implement our business logic, the main business logic, where in process report data. So in the process report data, we will just remove the documentation. Basically, we need to now find which are the tables which will be needed to get our data. So in this case, we will be needing the sales data, that is quantities of items sold and their value sold in all of the retail stores. So from the front end, I can show you by starting the new session. Okay, so when you go to the retail and commerce module, we have the store transaction form. In that store transaction form, we have the header, and then we have the lines. So lines can be of different types, like payment lines. There can be sales lines. Sales line will contain item IDs, quantities, and also net amount, and net amount including the tax, and there are various information. Then we have the payment lines which are associated with that header. So it is similar like purchase table or purchase line example, or you can say sales table, sales line example, when we have a header for common information and then we have the lines. So instead of repeating all the header information in lines, we can have a common header and then lines which will carry different record values. So that is the main purpose for this. So until this is refreshed, I will just start typing in the table name, which is basically retail transaction table. Okay, so this I will name it as a variable. So this is the header table basically, and then we have retail transaction sales trans. This will contain our line information. So I will name it sales trans. And to have a good intonation, just press tabs multiple times. Okay, then we have retail store view. To have a store ID and a store name, because that will be required to show in our report. And then we have invent table expanded view. Also this the purpose is the same like a store view. So here we will declare it as invent table expanded, and then we will require translate for applying the transaction date. This will be needed, and then we need a retail store ID to put a filter over here. Store ID, make this variable name simple. Then we need a list iterator to iterate selected store values, to iterate or retrieve the store value and assign to our store ID variable. We need to instantiate this instance. Okay, that's it. Now the next part is while statement. In the while we will use iterator and more, because we have assigned our list to this iterator instance. So here iterator and then new list iterator, and then we basically it is wrong. Here we need to pass the list, and list is assigned here. The values are retrieved here in our process report, and here you can see this is the list object and assigned here. Now inside the list iterator we have given the list name, and we have written a loop which will basically retrieve one single value each time, so until there are values in the list. So list will have value when there are stores are being selected. So in this way we have iteration of while loop, so each store will have one single iteration. Then we need to assign the value from iterator by using value method, so it will give us the store ID, and then we can skip to the next value. So just end our statement here. Okay, so until now maybe it is refreshed. Okay, so I just need to show you. Go to the retail and commerce module, go to the store transaction in inquiries and reports here. So in the store transaction, it will show us the header, and then within that header we will see the line information. I will clear the filter here. Okay, so this is the header, and basically it contains other value, but those are basically hidden here. I will just insert the columns. So the other value can be the gross amount value. Okay, and it can be transaction ID. Okay, the insert column. So here you can see transaction number, transaction time is also available. So just click it, and then in the grid it will show the transaction number and transaction time. Transaction time you can bring it here, and date and transaction time together, then gross amount. So for example, if we want to see this transaction, this specific transaction which happened on 16th of January 2015 and this time, so we can go at the top, and you can see there are sales transaction which will contain the line information, and then payment transaction which will contain how the customer basically paid through card or cash payment methods. So here you will find there are 4 lines, 4 different items which was purchased by the customer. So each of the item number is different and the name is also different. So also if you want to have additional detail, you can go and insert the additional column. For example, quantity. So the quantity column is also there. So now please do not confuse this quantity in minus, because here if you see the positive line, that is the line being sold, will always contain negative value. So net amount and net amount inclusive will also have the negative value. So it does not mean a reverse transaction, but rather it means a normal transaction. So these values will be always in negative. So if return transaction, it will be in positive. So in report, for the report purposes, I will inverse the sign so that it makes more sense that sales, normal sales are positive and the returns are negative. Okay, so this is the line detail. So it contains 4 lines but a single header, as I have shown you. So for each of the store, so iteration will happen here. Okay, in this iteration we will use basically set based operation. So always remember, set based operation is fast and good performing than looping structure. So in the set based operation we will use insert record set to insert a new record into which table, that is temp table buffer. Then we need to select item ID. Then what we have, the quantity. Then we have the value, the fields which we have make in our temporary table. Then we have unit, and then we have store ID. Then item name and store name. So far so good. And then we will minimize on the left pane, and we will write a select statement, and in the select statement we will use item ID, and now we will use aggregate function for the quantity. So aggregate is like sum operation. There are different aggregate operations available, like min, max, sum, average. Okay, then we have sum. So we have net amount inclusive tax. Net amount inclusive tax. Then we have the unit field. Now from which table? It will be the sales trans table, which is the line table. Okay, so next will be group by statement, because now we have used here at least 2 sum functions. So the remaining fields need to be inside the group by close. Okay, after this we need to join it with the transaction table. So the transaction table and we also need sorry, not transaction table, that is the header table, which is basically the trans table. Okay, then in the trans table also we will group by store. Okay, after group by we need to put the filter criteria through where clause in our query. So that will be trans table dot trans date if it is greater or equal to from date, then show me the record, and I will put a AND gate by a 2 ampersand sign, trace trans table dot trans date is less than equals to date. Okay, then we have AND gate trans table dot store equals to double equals to store ID. So here we have put our date range criteria as well as store ID for this iteration, which we have retrieved on the first line here. So we are putting these three filter criteria or the parameters. Okay, so now there are some other criteria, and what are those criteria? That we do not need any cancel transaction or any other kind of transaction, but we need the unposted and posted transaction. For that we have the specific field called entry status. Entry status is an enum field. Enum means will have literal like integer. Integer are having integer numbers, but it will have some sensible like this cancel, concluded. Here you can see none and posted. We are interested only these. Voided is cancelled. Then training is for the training session. Pending invoice, this is also not committed. Okay, then we have on hold, created or creating order, concluded, cancel. We do not need those. We need only none and posted. So we will put in or by through pipes, two pipes character, trans table entry status. Okay, we have here retail entry status as posted. Okay, the next will be, now what is the basic relation between a retail transaction table and retail transaction sales trans table? So that relation I must tell here at this point that we should exactly follow whatever are the relation defined in the table, because otherwise the output will not be as expected. So when you go to the child table here, retail transaction sales trans, you can see in the relations that you have a relation called retail transaction table, and here there are 4 fields which are related. So what we need to do is just assign the relationship at this stage. So trans table dot transaction ID equals to the sales trans dot transaction ID. Okay, then we have trans table dot store equals to sales trans dot store. Then we have trans table dot terminal ID. See, many people also follow only transaction ID, but that is risky sometime. Most of the time it will work, but sometime what happens if the transaction ID is itself not having the store ID embedded in itself. So It's always better to put the actual relationship. Task table dot channel. Okay. So we have finished it so far, and then we have another join, and that join will have the basically product name from our invent. Okay, just remove this additional phrase from here. Okay, invent table expanded product name and group by product name. Then we need to put a where clause in order for the join. And that will be on the basis of item ID. Okay. So this item ID is contained in the sales trans table. Okay, then we have the last join, which is the name of store. Okay, then group by on the name. Why we are putting the group? Because it is not under aggregate. So once you inside a join you are using aggregate, you need to put the other fields in the group clause. Store view store num equals to trans table store. Okay, so this is it. I think mostly it is covered now. Item ID, store, everything is now almost covered. So just I will build the project so that if there is any error. Also we need to inverse the sign here, and that should be after the loop has exited. Otherwise, if you put inside the loop, inside the iterator here, so it will every time reverse. So it is not intended. Only one time we need to reverse the sign. So for that we need to use update record set based operation, and it will use the exactly same temporary table which has been populated after this iteration has completed, and now it contains the value. So now we will use the setting clause to set the value of the field in this temporary table, and we will multiply with -1 to have the sign inversed. Okay, so here the value, same field, and then we have quantity also need to inverse. Okay, so these two field value we will inverse the sign, and that's it. So I don't think there is any error so far, and again if you want to build, you can build. Now the stage comes when we need to make a report, which is the almost final, the big thing, and then menu item and menu extension in order to call the report and to put the menu item in within the correct placement, which will be basically the retail module itself. Okay, so now I will just minimize everything. The main thing is now the report. So because now it will be based on matrix based design, so we'll just go to the add option and go in the new and go to the reports, and you can see here the report object. So just select the normal report object, pkr retail sales. Okay, no need to put the word report itself, because report, it is already the different type object in the EOT. Okay, now Now you can see there is a dataset node here, and previously I have been doing drag and drop approach, and this time also I will use the drag and drop approach. I will drag and drop my class. If it is perfectly fine, so it will create a dataset like I have just now done it. Okay, so after this data set, you can see on the right hand side there are certain properties, like it is report data provider, and here there is query option as well, but because we have now made a class, DP class, and it has its own temporary table, so automatically it has picked the data source type as the report data provider, and the query is automatically selected, which will return the temporary table, all the records. And then we have here default layout, which is table, but we don't want table. Lastly, in my previous videos we have selected this option, table, but now if you expand this lookup, or you call this lookup, you can see here there is another option called matrix, although there are other options, and I hope that I will cover those options also in my future reports. But here this one, matrix report, is our target, so I will select matrix. Now in my previous videos I have also drag and drop this data provider, I mean the data set of this report to design, and automatically it create a auto design, but in this case it will not do it. Why? Because the matrix designs are complex designs, so it is not supported. So we will close this, and there is no design yet made. So what we will do, there are two kind of designs here. So one is auto design, one is precision design. Precision design gives you more precise control over the design of a report, whereas the auto design has a little bit I mean it has more limitations in respect of precise design making. So you just need to make your design more accurate by doing the by putting the values in properties. So now we will be using here precision design, and the design name as per best practice should always be report. Okay, then we will just check on the right hand side, there are style template. We have been using table style alternating rows template, but this is not useful now because we are using a matrix based report. So this one is not useful at all, so we will not use it. Okay, so now what we'll do is just right click on the report and edit using designer. Now whole play will be around properties and setting the fonts and setting the row groups and column groups, as we have explained in our initially while starting this video. Now once again I will show you here our design of the report. So on the right hand side these are column groups, and then we have the row groups here, and then we have the values here. So these are the values inside against each column group and row group. So that's why it is called a matrix, because it has column groups, those are also dynamic, and row groups also dynamic. So once your column groups are dynamic, it is very difficult to have a specific length of a report, because it can extend to whatever number of stores you have, or whatever you have selected here. Now we will be selecting stores, but for example if you select items and those are 1000 items, so how many columns it will require? 1000 columns. So ultimately report will not be basically showing you everything in one, but it will be splitting into multiple pages. So then you need one option which is called export to Excel option, or you can send through using the batch operation the report to email to you, or you can use the print archive option, so that Excel is saved in your print archive or any other format which you require. So now on the row columns we will have the items, and on the column group we will be having the stores. Okay, so to start with, now what we need to do here, so we need basically go and right click over the white space and put two at least text boxes to give the label of report, and also we will need to show here the date range. or the parameter which are selected. So that will be the date range, and here we will be putting the name of the report. So always remember the existing style of Microsoft reports are through Segoe, using the Segoe UI font. So here, okay, for the date range, the 10 size of font is enough. However, for the report name, you must have a little bit larger size. For example, 14th text, and you can put here the name of your report, like retail sales date wise. This will be the name of report, and you can make little bit bold style. And then we have here the filter criteria. So for that, you can put date range. Okay, and then you need to have the expression here. For the expression, you can have equal to sign, and then this is a string. Then you embed your date range parameter, like from date. Okay, and then you can have another I don't know why it is. Okay, give some space here. Okay, and put a hyphen, and again to date. Okay, and this will show you the date range. But here I need to show it like first day, month and year. For that I can use format method, and then pass this date value, and here I need to assign a format like this. Now it will be, the date also will be formatted. Same I need to do here, format, and then the value need to be passed here, and then in this way I have formatted the parameter of date range. So day, month and year. Okay, after doing this, this is the top level, and just expand it, and also do the report properties as a landscape, and the page size A3, which is the bigger size, but it is basically not dependent because we will export to Excel, because A3 size also will be smaller one to cover this report. Okay, now the next part is right click here and go to the insert, and you can see here many controls are available, which also include chart, gauge and map, and there are so many controls. So here we have a matrix control, and in this matrix control you can see there is a row side, and then column, and then data. So when you click row, at the bottom you can see on the row group side there is a row group here available. So first thing here is just select this tablix or matrix, and then go on the right hand side in the properties and select the dataset names. So since we are having here retail sales DP, so it is very important to select this data set here. So data set is the same like this one in our report. Okay, so once you select this data set, then what is the next thing? Next thing is you can now go to the rows, and you can find the fields are now available of that data set. Okay, so on the left hand side we need to place item ID, on the column side we need to basically place store ID, and on the data side we need to have first of all the quantities. Okay, this is the minimum structure which I have made so far, but the thing is we need to have the month wise report, and also it is not enough, and here also we need a store name. So what we need to do is, and as soon as you have basically selected the field, you can see at the bottom the column groups automatically take the names from the field which are being selected. Okay, so now we can have another column here which will show the value. So right click over here and insert column, inside group, but on the right hand side. Okay, and then you select here the value. So automatically the sum will be done here. Okay, so the next thing is I also need a store name here. So for that, right click over the store ID cell and insert a row inside group below. Okay, and in that row you can select a store name as well. You can align them as center, and if you want you can make it bold. Okay, and then in the item ID you can right click over the cell and insert column inside group but on the right hand side, and then you can select item name here. So now you can see there are basically two fields, item ID and item name. As per the report you can see here item ID and item name. Then we have the quantity value, but this label is still missing. For that, what we need to do is right click here and insert a row outside group above. Okay, so here what we'll need to do is basically put here quantity and value. Okay, and also it's better when number values are shown, it should be always right aligned, so that hundreds and thousands are aligned together. Okay, so this is now achieved so far, and if we want we can cut and paste, Control X and Control V. Okay, and also if you want you can make it bold. Okay, also you can make bold these, and you can see on at the top that the font selected is by default is Arial. We don't need that one, we need Segoe UI. Okay, also here, because for beauty of your report the fonts should be same and light, so that it is easy to read the figures in a report. Also this the values should be for example 8 font. Here also the quantity and value I will put 8. Okay, so far so good. Now the thing is, the main thing is, because now it will show the records. If I want to go to the DP class, okay, inside the DP, if you remember our temporary table, there was a transaction date field, but we have not inserted the value in our DP, so because we have missed it. So transaction date is available in the trans table form itself. So what we need to do is, not form, sorry, trans table retail transaction table. So this table, retail transaction table. So what we need to do is we will select trans date, and we will place also trans date here. Okay, so also we need to include our trans date in the group by statement, so the values are summed up or aggregated based on the transaction date. But in the report, the grouping we can also group here month wise, but because now trans date is selected here, it's better to make the grouping on the report side. So that will also be a good idea to show you how the grouping is done using expression. So here also I will change the font. The cosmetics of a report takes also a good amount of time. Okay, now in the item ID here you can see we can add additional groups also. So what we need to do is add a group on the parent group level. Okay, and there you can see there is a add group header here. We will select this option, but here we have only the fields which can be selected, like transaction date, but we don't need a date wise summary, we need a month wise summary. So on the right hand side you can see there is an expression or function which we can write here. So that function is basically, we can use here the date and time function, and that date and time function can be a month function here. So I will double click it and it will give me a month function, and the parameter of which will be the transaction date. So it will return me a month number, but I need the month name. So again I will use the month name method here or function here. So now it will return me month name, but also I need year. Okay, so there is another function in the same date and time category with the name of year. So this placement is wrong. I will cut it and paste it here, and the same transaction date field can be used to evaluate the year. Okay, so it will give me the year with the hyphen sign to be separate, to separate it from the month name. Okay, so in this way we have written the expression, and I will click OK. So now grouping will be done on the basis of this expression, and you can see there is another bracket which has been added here. Okay, and that is external or parent group of this item ID. Okay, so now what we need to do is basically adjust the fields, and also we need a subtotals. For the subtotal, what we can do is, subtotal we need on the basis of this group. Okay, so this group, we can add a total here, and it can be like after. So after this there will be a total here, but this is a grand total. Why? Because this is outside the group. Okay, so this is outside the group. I can place the label here. Okay, and I can make these grand total as bold. Just little bit I will enlarge so that it is visible for you guys. Okay, now here I need to insert a row below, and this I will again split it. Okay, so now here this is an additional 1 minute. I will just undo and first split these two cells, and here I will insert a row. No, this is not exactly what I need. Insert a row outside group below. Yeah, now it is the correct one, because I need total on the grouping of month. So for that I will just copy this here and copy this here, and I will call this subtotal. Why it will show the subtotal? On the left hand side, if you know, the gray brackets or the sign of the grouping, the first grouping is on the basis of the month. So this is the month basically. And this month I want just item ID and item name. I want to repeat it here, and also the quantities, they need to repeat with each of the month. Okay, I don't need this name of a group, but I need here, I will insert a row inside group but above. Okay, so now this month I can show it here, and then this is extra blank row I will remove. So this need to be very careful. I mean, it is tricky, but you need to be careful. What I have been doing, just follow me and you will reach at the same results. Okay, so this column is now extra. I will delete the column, and here we have expression for the month. It will result as the month, and here item ID and item name and quantity will be repeated with our this month. But here store ID and store name will not be repeated, and we need it to be also repeating. So how to achieve that? Just do one thing. Just here insert a row inside the group but above. Okay, and what you need to do, merge it. First you place this store ID, and then you need to place the store name after merging this. Okay, now you can remove this rows as well, one by one, and also this one. It's asking here to delete not only row but associated group, so don't need to do that one, but only deleting the row here, because we don't need to lose this grouping, and it will need to be dynamic on the column side as well. So now also the expression or group ID here we can put like months. Okay, so this is the month group. Then we have item ID and the store ID. So month will be here, month, and then we have the item name. So if you want, you can merge both of these fields. So the month and year will occupy the whole space, and if you want, you can also center align here, and item ID, item name. Okay, if you want to check here, so okay, so this is almost done. If you want, you can again split and put this value, cut Control X, and put here a label like month. Okay, and colon, so that next is the value of month. Okay, like this. So I think we have almost achieved it. And store name, no need to bold it, just reduce the size also, and here also size should be 9, and the month also 9, here also 9. Okay, and here also the value should not be bold. Quantity value being right aligned, and I think everything is now almost set, and we need to have our first view. So before that view, we need to adjust a bit the tablets on the left hand side to not to leave any white spaces, and also the name of the report. Okay, here, and also no need to go on the right hand side. Also reduce the font size and put it here. Adjustment of controls are also very nice when they are done in alignment with each of the controls. So you can see the blue line, which is basically directing you or helping you in aligning your controls. So you need to just adjust the borders of your report so that there is no blank space. So this is our report which is done now so far, and it has gray borders here, which looks nice. I think once you need to adjust anything, you can adjust. It is up to you. So the range will be shown and everything. So now once you have finalized your report, you need to add a output menu item. So for that, right click and go to the add option, and then click new, go to the user interface and find output menu item. Give it the name PKR retail sales report. Okay, retail sales report, this is the menu item, and then you can put a label to show inside the menu. So this will be retail sales date range on a date range. So this will be retail sales on a date range label, and then we have here the object type, which will be SSRS report, and then we have the name of the report, which is PKR retail sales. Okay, so automatically you can see in the report design property the report design is selected. So because this has a single design, so automatically it is selected. Okay, so this is done now. And then the placement of this menu item, where it will be placed. So for the new developers, the menu item is just a link to open the report. So this menu item we will place inside a menu, and that menu will be definitely the retail sales module. Okay, so on the user interface node of AOT, you can expand it and go to the menus, and in the menus you will find a menu like retail main. Okay, right click over here and create a new extension here. Okay, so if you have not referenced this package, which is application suite, you need to reference it in your module. So you can just rename this extension to include your project name, retail sales report. Okay, and you then just double click it and it will open, and inquiries and report menu node you can open. Go to the sales report menu. Okay, in the sales report menu you need to place, drag and drop output menu item and place it here. So it takes the last place here, and that's it. You just need to close and right click and deploy the reports. It will build automatically, and it will also deploy the report on SSRS services. And if there are any problem, the build issues, it will be shown to you at this point. So it is good practice on your development box to stop basically the batch services or DMF services, data services. So once it is stopped, so it will quickly finish the deployment, and then you can basically refresh your environment, D365 environment on your browser, and then you can check the functionality which has been implemented. So this report deployment is done. So now you need to go to the browser and go to the, basically we need to refresh here. So after each build, the IAS is reset, so the session is lost. So you need to just refresh, and once it is refreshed, you can go to the module and the exact place where you have placed your menu item in order to check the report. So now you need to go to the retail module. After the build has completed and you have refreshed, you can find your menu item inside the inquiries and reports, and within the sales reports group, and at the end retail sales on date range. So here you can see the sequencing which we have done from date to date is on the second number, then we have the stores. So from date will show us a calendar control, and we can select a specific range, and then we will choose, for example, to date, and that will be 31st December 2015, because in Contoso data we have data available for this date range. And be mindful that you need to run this report in USRT company. USRT is for retail, so that's why it will have the retail transactions. Okay, then this is the lookup which is now showing here, and you can see here, you can select multiple values here, or if you want to select all values, you can also select all values. Normally the built-in lookup only provides to select one value, but this one is a multi-select grid lookup which will show you the values in a grid. Okay, and from here you can put a filter criteria also, Control G, just like a normal grid if you want, or if you want you can select all the values here. So I have selected all values. Then I will show this in a screen, but if you want it to send through email as a XLS file, that is a Microsoft Excel file, you can use Microsoft Excel and put subject and then the to email. So if all email parameters are set, you will receive after running this report, which might take some time, in your inbox. Or you can save in print archive here, and later on you can search in search for page here for print archive. There you will find your Excel report to download. For now I will run this in a screen. So for whole date year, for whole fiscal year 2015, I've selected all the stores, and I will click OK to run my report, so that it will show me all the records. And now basically it will run in iteration. So what we have achieved here, we have basically created three classes. One is contract class to pass the parameters. The other one is also related, which is UI builder, which assists the user interface building for the contract class, and that is needed for implementation of our own lookup and hooking up that lookup to the contract class field control, dialog field control. Okay, so that is done in three methods. The build method, through which we will get the controls and link those controls with the contract parameters, and then we implemented our own private lookup here, and that lookup is hooked through post run method here. So this is our UI builder. Contract class I have explained. We have three parameters, param methods. Okay, which two are date controls, from date and to date, and the other one is the store control. Then we have the DP class, which will basically implement our business logic. It contains process report method, which is the main method, and inside that method we initialize basically the contract class. We are retrieving the values from contract class, and then we are basically calling our own method, which is private, which will execute main business logic. So in this we have used set based operation, and into our temporary table whatever the fields we are needing here, and then we are joining with multiple views and tables together to get our records, and we are using aggregate function like sum here, and the remaining fields which are outside aggregate are used in group by clause. Okay, and then we are reversing the signs. Why? Because normally on retail side the quantities and the values, that is the sale amount, are in negative when you talk about header or when you talk about sales lines. So those are negative. So in order to show them positive, we are inversing, and only the return transaction will need to show in negative. And then we have a temporary table a getter, or you can say a method, which will return in our report. In the report, this is the main thing. In the report we have basically a DP dataset from our DP class, the temporary table, and we have created a precision design, and that design will basically hold two text controls and one matrix control. Matrix control here, the tablets here, it will contain the row groups and it will contain the column groups. Row groups is basically having parent and child groups. Parent is month expression, which is basically a taken expression will return the month and year from a trans date, and then the child expression, which will basically show the item ID and item name here. and we have subtotal and the grand total. Grand total is the total of all totals, all the totals, and subtotal is for each of the month grouping. So here we have missed one thing, which is also when you go to group properties, page break. You need to insert a page break if you want to export it to Excel, so it will show you separately in separate sheets each month wise. So I will again deploy it, no problem. On the right hand side you will find the store ID, store name, which will be repeating per month basically. So each different sheet will repeat store ID and store name, then the values are quantities and the sales amount value. So this will be shown per item basis here. So the report is again deployed, and you have seen here our previous report. I will run it one more time so that because once I export to Excel, so then only you will have a perfect view. One more thing here is item name field. Little bit you can expand it because the name is larger, and you can decrease item ID here, and you can again adjust and then deploy the report once more. So the reports almost take less than 1 minute, and you can expand to have a view, but it's better to export it into Excel using the export operation, and then you can see the output of report, because here it will not come under one page. So there are 730 pages here because as per the number of stores and number of items, so the columns will also not fit in one page. So once you send it through email, definitely it will be the Excel format, and Excel format will cover all the areas. Also, one thing here to remember, you can also, if you want, you can round up the decimal places, because these are already a sum value. It is up to you if you don't want to reduce, so it is up to you. This was our earlier design on the basis of which we tried to make this report. Okay, so this is the export of our report, and you can see the date here, range is also printed here, and then you have a month here, and when you go to the other sheet, so there is another month, and although it is not sorted, you can apply the sort also, so that each month is sequence wise. So also here, so each month is having a different sheet, and each sheet is also repeating the store IDs here, and then we have quantities and values, and on the right hand side you can see this is the total. So the total quantity we have missed here. Okay, and but you can see the subtotal is shown here at each of the sheet at the end. Each of the sheet is showing the subtotal. Okay, so you go to the last sheet and it will also show not only the subtotal, means the total of that specific month, but also the grand total for all the selected date range. So this is subtotal will show the September subtotal, September 2015, and you will see here the values for each quantity and value is repeated per store. And for this item like basic inner tube, you have 21 quantities sold and value is this much. So we have basically missed two things here, which we can again place. There will be no issue. Just right click and insert column, and you can place here the unit of measure, which is also very important. So the fine tuning will definitely take some time, but it is also good idea to also right click, and here you can also go to the column group at the bottom and add a total after. So this will add a total in the column group. Okay, here you can put total quantity as a column header, and then total value. So then you need you can also, if you want, you can right align Okay, after right aligning, also if you want to round up the values, so you can also round by right clicking and go to the text box property. In the text box, go to the number and number here, and use a column, use a comma separator, and here make a round and use this negative numbers here. So once you have done, you can go here in the properties and you will find a format property with this hash comma 0. So just copy and select the remaining here and place here. Also these cell values also place here. Similarly, if you want it to apply on these cell values, you can also go and put in the format so that on the values are rounded. Okay, you can adjust a bit. Now this makes more sense. So because it will have the item wise quantity and their totals. Okay, so now again you can deploy the report. So once you have finalized your report on DevBox, you can deploy to the sandbox for the testing by making a deployable package and uploading to the asset library. And after asset library, you can apply it to the environment of sandbox environment. Okay, so now I will run this again, and it will take almost 1 minute time to retrieve the report, and this is due to our set based operation, which is basically having a good performance over the loops. So I will close the existing report. So these are extra things which you can implement in your report, and they will also really help look your report more meaningful and having something helpful for the sales department or supply chain department or the production department. So now this is our report once more, and now I will export again to Excel. It has almost 588 pages when you see on the screen. Okay, the file is exported. Just click it to open. Okay, now the file is in front of us, and we are seeing the additional column of unit is shown here, each unit, and then on the right hand side the total quantity, total value for that specific item is also shown. In this way also we have a round up the numbers. Okay, and you can go to another sheet and it will also show here the totals per item. So I am hopeful that this video was quite informative for you. If you have certain comments, just let me know, and if you need a specific topic to be covered next time, please also mention that topic. Thank you very much.